when
No,
you
I
spend
know.
40 grand, don't you think you're
Yeah,
going to
you'd
get something
expect it to be, like,
unbelievable?
the best thing in the world.
The
Yeah,
best thing you've ever
100%.
seen. And it wasn't.
100%. You should be crying with joy if it's costing you 40 grand. You should be emotional.
I should have
at
it
the
like
UX.
printed out and framed on my wall.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Hi, I'm Lucy.
And I'm Yasmine.
We'll be here each week to talk about the highs and lows of entrepreneurship,
Building online business and the problems we face in the e-com industry.
and we'll also be sharing the stories of the amazing women within our community who are all crushing it. So let's get into it.
You know what? I haven't been able to like do my hair, like
Yeah,
do
I know
my
what you mean.
makeup. Like I just feel very out of sorts, and like it really stresses me out. I was saying to Lucy, I'm not autistic. And I do say that.
Genuinely. Like I was going to say,
Genuinely.
here's where we get cancelled, Jasmine.
However,
Like, literally, behave yourself, please.
However, no, I do have autistic tendencies when it comes to personal space, but I don't, it's just like, it's something that I actually can't change about myself. And I have tried over the years to be more chill about it. But I do really struggle with having people in my personal space for like long periods of time. This is like 3 weeks, it's not.
Yeah, that
It's
is
not a
That is
weekend.
a long. I didn't realise it was 3 weeks. That is a long time. Like, I've had it before where I've had friends like spring trips on me.
Yeah, you had one last year, didn't you?
Yeah, which is so lovely. Like, and I'm so appreciative because I live. It's far. It's a 12 and a half, 13 hour, something like that, hour flight
Yeah.
from London. Like, it's not close. But also, I think the thing about Hong Kong that people don't realise is you don't have space in your apartments. Like, I live in a studio and I love it, although I am moving out next week. But it's hard to host because, like, for me, that studio is where I live, but it's also my office.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, it's just hard to manage multiple people like in it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's very
yeah, I
difficult.
think it's just but also I think when you get used to like I'm so used to living by myself. I've lived by myself for like 3.5 years, that I even find going back to like my family homes, like my auntie's home in Ireland. I love it. It's like home, but I find it overwhelming having so many people in a house all at once.
Yeah, so
one
I
time
think
I'm
that's
like,
what it is. It's overwhelm.
Yeah.
It's not wanting them to be here. It's
Not
just
at all.
I personally do find it very overwhelming. But I think that's probably because in the day, like our work is so stressful, and particularly with like my work situation at the moment, I've got so much going on in terms of different things that my brain has to work in overdrive every day to like just process all the things per project. So when it gets to the end of the day, it's like I really need that alone time. I really need that like solidarity. And obviously you don't get that when you've got a house full
You're entertaining.
and you're
yeah.
hosting. So I'm just trying to like stay positive. And the way I'm doing my morning walks, which I've been doing for quite a long time, but I'm finding that's making such a difference.
Do you know what? I have started copying you, not necessarily on the morning walk, because I'm actually like super productive the first few hours of the day. So sometimes for me, it's just better
Same.
to get stuck into it and then I'll take a break and train. Or walk then. Like yesterday I went on a lovely 2-hour walk with a friend. But trying to get 15k steps in a day, my new thing. Enjoying it.
Yeah, it's
Enjoying it.
I also find like if you do I don't know, so I do like, we've got a running track near us. It's not a full running track. I think it's like 3k. And I just do that twice in the morning, and then that's already 10,000 steps, but it doesn't feel like it because I've got so much dopamine in the morning. That's just how I wake up. And then it like swiftly disappears throughout the day. But then like I'll go on another break at lunchtime, and yeah, those 15,000 steps, it sounds crazy, but it's actually not when you just start doing it, is it? Have you found the same?
I also sometimes find though, like after a long day, and it helps that I live, and I'm biased, in like one of the most beautiful harbours in the world with like an incredible skyline. But like sometimes if you've had a stressful day, just like running it out at the end of the day also really helps me. Like if I can get myself into a pair of trainers, which is always a battle, right? But like I always feel so much better. Like even just running, not like any like trying to do anything for speed or anything like that, but just like running until I feel not stressed, basically.
Yeah.
But I find that works quite well. Yeah.
Just definitely. I think just getting like out of your head and into your body is really useful. But also, so I've started meditating in the mornings for 15 minutes as well. So my routine, for anyone that cares, is I'll get up at 6 a.m. because no one else is awake. So I just love that feeling of being awake before others. It's peaceful. And then I will go and just literally sit on the sofa. Like I'll get dressed, go sit on the sofa and meditate for 15 minutes just to music. And I really struggle. Like I'm finding it really hard because my mind, I wake up and it's so full. So I feel like I'm trying to like really battle my thoughts, like go away, do not, like just leave me alone for 15 minutes, just leave me alone. But it's almost like an addiction. I need the thoughts because I think I get some sort of dopamine kick from the thoughts. And it's always like work related stuff. Anyways, finding that that's helping like cleanse my brain. And then I'll go for my walk and I'll use that time just to literally, it's like a Rolodex, and I'll just think through all of the things that's in my head.
Yes, I know, because I get like 5 voice notes.
Yeah.
I just get like this stream of conscious thought from Yasmine, and I'm like, for me, by the time she's doing that, it's like the middle of the day, so I'm like 3 meetings deep, and the last thing I want is an internal monologue from Yasmine. But like literally, I just see them pop up on my phone, and I was like, no, we're gonna wait till later to deal with those.
I'm in my like, my highest form.
Oh yeah,
at that point of the day. That's my highest self when I'm like meditated, I'm cleansed, I'm like in my happy place walking around the track, and I'm like, right, I'm gonna voice note Lucy for 7 minutes.
I just think that, and then this like whole big thing, and I'm just like yeah. But I don't meditate, but I do journal religiously every single day, and
do
have
you?
done probably for like
so good
3 years now, I reckon 3 or 4 years, every single day.
And
helps.
What is the benefit? Like, yeah, how's it helping you?
It's probably like a bit of a dopamine thing as well. I just find it like clears my thoughts and like helps me like focus on my goals and things like that, and like just like a place to like express everything, you know, like just get everything down, and then I can like go about my day. So I just find it like a really good
It's like a release.
Yeah, 100%. It just like kind of clears my brain, and also sometimes helps me like if I can't figure out why I'm not feeling good, or like something's bothering me. It's just like good sometimes, because when you write, sometimes I'm literally just writing pro-con lists for things, or like decision making and stuff, but it just helps. And then it's also quite nice, and I don't do this often, but as I mentioned, I'm about to move, so I've been like going through stuff, and I keep all my journals as well. And it's actually really nice to sometimes look back and like see how much you've progressed in like the way you're thinking about things, or how you handle situations, or quite often things that like seemed like the end of the world, you're like, oh, I forgot that even happened. Do you know what I mean? So like
completely,
I find it just quite a good practice overall. So I guess it's kind of like meditation for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's another form of meditation. But
I also
think
writing, so if it's therapeutic as well.
And I think if you can find a way to meditate whilst it's doing something that you enjoy, like for you it's writing, for me I love walking, like I honestly think those 2 laps around the track in the morning is meditation for me. And it's like if I don't do that, I feel heavy, I feel strange, I feel like I've not done something that I needed to do.
100%.
So that's so interesting. I do feel sorry for like UK girls at the moment, because
the weather.
I was trying to think, the weather and the darkness.
I was going to ask you this. I was going to ask you if you used to do this in the UK.
Yeah, I did. But I lived in Richmond, which is my favourite corner of the world.
Nice.
And it was, super green, and there were fields, and it was by the river. Yeah, and parks. And I would do a walk. I was trying to think about this the other day. Like, I think I would stop doing it in the winter, or I would go later on in the day at like 8 a.m. when it was light, because it was pitch black until then, and I would genuinely get scared. And I was talking to Ellie the other day, who's Ellie Carlisle. She's doing a spotlight session for us actually, and she was saying she is literally wearing a head torch at the moment to do her morning walks. And it gets to that point, doesn't it, where you're like, how do you? I don't know. So I don't think I did it in the depths of the winter, unless I was going later on in the day. I can't really remember though.
I think the other thing that I've kind of started doing is, and again, like easy to do in Hong Kong because it's like this. I think it's like the size of, it's got the population of London, but like where we all are is like quite a compact space. We all like work fairly close by and stuff, but I get many requests for coffees. No, I'm joking. Like people reach out and like it's a very like networky place. There's always people reaching out and being like, oh, can we go for a coffee? I've got this idea, or like something to do with Ecomm Girls Club, or like whatever. And I used to get really stressed because before you know it, you've got like 3 coffees a day in, and then that's like, wait, when are you going to work? So my latest kind of life hack, which I stole from my friend Liz actually, is if someone wants to meet for a coffee, I'm like, okay, yeah, do you want to do before work and walk and have a coffee?
That's
like, so
a
much
really
better.
good idea.
So
That is
much better
so
because
good.
it's like doing 2 things at once. You're getting your steps
Yeah.
in. It's just good for you to be out in, and to be honest, in the winter here, it's sunny the whole time, so it's so nice.
Yeah.
And you get to do the coffee and the chat and stuff, but you're moving whilst you do it, and it just kind of feels like it doesn't also then like, is it impede on your like work day because it's before. So that's my latest thing.
That's really cool, and you don't begrudge it because you don't
No.
feel like it's eating into your time that you could be working. Do you ever do that when you're like on a call or you've taken a coffee meeting and you're sat there and you start thinking, I could be working now. Like I've got so much to do. I could be doing other stuff. And there's no worse a feeling or thought process than that, because it just like completely takes away from the experience that you're currently in with that person. It's not fair on them, but also it's just so stressful. So I think, yeah, your tactic is so good, because then even if like, firstly, there's no such thing as like a bad new relationship. Well, there are,
like,
but like rarely.
You never know how conversations, like what opportunities present themselves, and I just like people, so like it's nice to meet new people.
Yeah, and what a lovely way to start your day as well. Like a positive interaction with a coffee.
But we are, to be fair, we're very fortunate because most of my like friends live within a 10-minute, 15-minute walk of me, so like it's easy to meet and do that. We're very lucky. Anyway, after our 15-minute ramble on our lives.
By the way, I had to like really cut down the intro, that part on the previous. It was like 10 minutes of dross. I was talking to Stephanie, our producer, and I was like, yeah, cut that, because it was just us chatting. But also, Luz, like this is why we started this podcast, is because these are also like insights to our lives, like our real lives. It's not just advice and like us preaching to our listeners, like do this. It's like, no, this is also our real lives, and this is how we live them.
I'm sure we'll be crying on here at some point. Yeah, like I'm sure there'll be tears before the year's out. But what we were going to talk about today is, I mean, it's such a huge topic. I don't know quite how we're going to do this, but basically marketing and how to get started. And I think it is something that we see within Ecomm Girls Club and ourselves. It's overwhelming, even with Ecomm Girls Club, like for us doing it for Ecomm Girls Club. It's such an overwhelming thing. And there's so many different opinions on like what you should be doing, where to spend your money, who to listen to. And like, I thought, well, it would just be kind of interesting for us to discuss like how to start when you don't have much cash to like throw at marketing. But, you know, realistically, once you've got a great product or service, the next most important thing is to make sure people know about it. So
yeah, and how are you going to do that without breaking the bank?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, did you do the marketing when you were running the agency? Was that part of your service?
What, so marketing of the agency itself or the brands?
Of the brands you were launching?
No. So our services stopped at the point of launch, other than 3PL. So we did, and customer service. So like we'd take the brand to market and then we'd kind of run the ops of it, but we had nothing to do with the marketing because it wasn't my expertise at all. And the thought process was at the time, like we're working with these massive talent. They are the marketing powerhouse, which they were. Obviously that's changed a lot nowadays and you need a lot of other marketing tools, which we'll talk about. But yeah, no, I didn't look after it then. So I had to learn, since coming out of agency life, I had to learn about marketing on brand side. So I would say it's really not my expertise, but I've had to learn fast, and I've learned a lot over the last 3 years. And I guess the quickest way and the best way of me learning that was just to launch my own brand. And that's why I did it with Sash. We launched Cloth Project. And the reason I did that was because I wanted to learn how paid media worked, how influencer marketing worked when you don't have a massive talent to do it for you, like all these little things. But obviously that was really overwhelming. And so that's why I partnered with Sasha, who is a marketing genius. But she's also just one person, and so she can't do it all. There's just not enough hours in the day. So like our strategy was divide and conquer, but also be selective with the channels we were going to really focus on. So we chose Meta, which is obviously paid media, where we run ads on Instagram and Facebook essentially. And then also influencer gifting, but focusing on micro influencers. And that in itself has been a real journey. And just like, I mean, I still find it quite a minefield, to be honest, that side of things. I find that harder than paid media.
I think probably because paid media, there's kind of somewhat of a set format, right? I mean, I know there's different ways of doing it, but like the principles of how it works is just how it works because it's a platform, like, you know, it's Meta.
Completely. And you can just keep testing and learning, and it doesn't, like, it costs money, obviously, but it's all controllable. Whereas an influencer is not within your control.
People. It's when you have to deal with people. Like, it's honestly like when I was building like UGC systems and stuff for brands, like one of the reasons they came to me is because it meant they didn't have to deal with the people. Literally.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that was where they were. That's why they were happy to pay for me to do it, because they were like, it means we don't have to talk to anyone. Not because they don't want to, but because it takes up so much time. But I do think like it is an overwhelming thing as a business owner. And even, I mean, I come from a marketing background technically. I worked for the marketing department of a giant bank, which was hundreds of people. Did a marketing diploma whilst I was there, because one of the benefits of being in corporates is they'll sponsor you to do like qualifications and stuff. But even that was B2B more than obviously B2C. So I would still find it super overwhelming if I was starting to market a brand now as well. And I think one thing that's really important to remember is like 20 years ago, social media wasn't even a thing. Like, it's changed so much, and it still is. Like 15 years ago, like influencer marketing wasn't even a thing, right? Like it's and probably like 5 years ago, micro influencers weren't a thing, and nobody was talking about AI based marketing. So it is just changing at like a rapid pace. But I think the thing I would always say to people is like, you don't need to do every single type of marketing on day one.
Yeah, because I think that's where it becomes really overwhelming, because you've got like Google search, you've got Meta, you've got TikTok shop, and you can run ads on TikTok. Oh, long day. And so it's like our strategy has been just pick one, double down on that, and then like just get really good at that one channel and then expand, instead of kind of giving half value to 3 or 4 different channels. This is a lesson I learned through my agency, actually. It's so funny how the same lessons repeat themselves. Yeah, so like I was managing at 1.8 different brands in terms of MPD and launch process. And I'm one person, and yes, we had a team, but ultimately I was only giving half value to all those brands, because like I'm only one person. There's only so much of me I can give. And it's the same with launching your own brand and the marketing. It's like, do you want to give half value to lots of different areas, or do you just want to double down on one and be really good at that one? So I've chosen that route now.
I mean, we've seen that even with like girls in Ecomm Girls Club. Like obviously the girls who have like bigger brands now do multiple channels, obviously. But I think I'm thinking of like Luxe Emporium. They started out like pretty much purely TikTok. Ellie's the same, right? That's what Ellie's doing her spotlight session on. It's like purely TikToks, and just like double down on it. So I do think that is something to like consider.
Yeah, definitely. I would say with that as well, timing is really important, and like looking around you at the market and the economy and the culture. When those brands like Luxe Emporium and Byerly launched, we were in COVID and TikTok was booming, and like that was the best strategy for them at the time, and they've done so well off the back of that. Obviously trying to apply that same strategy 5 years later might not be as effective now as it was then. So like, I guess we're not saying, I think that's actually, I just wanted to caveat that, because that's something I've been thinking, and it's something I reckoned with a lot. It's like, oh my God, all these brands have done so well on TikTok. Do we need to be on TikTok? But we tried it and it actually didn't work very well for us.
But again, it will also depend on like who your customer is and where they are, right? Like if it's like a slightly older audience, they're probably not on TikTok. You know, like
Exactly.
it's those kind of things. So I think one lesson I would say is like, do your research on who your customer is, or who you think, if you're just starting out, who you think your customer is, and like figure out where they will be and find that channel. Like I have this conversation with people about like who overlook, for example, LinkedIn. I'm very bullish on LinkedIn as a platform because everyone's a consumer. But for some services, like if you're looking for affluent people who are perhaps unhappy in their job, or like it depends what product you're marketing, LinkedIn, like, you know, it's like super fast growing. They're putting video, integrating video heavily. Like there's an opportunity there, you know. It's even for some, I would say like high-end D2C, like I wouldn't overlook it.
I was just thinking, what do you think to D2C marketing on LinkedIn?
I think there's probably an opportunity there because they are like adapting the app quickly to push video and making it like video first, like short form video. And I also think there's a whole video channel.
So you know how like Meta has business manager and ads.
There's ads. You can run ads.
Manager. Can you do that on LinkedIn?
Yeah, but they're expensive, I believe.
Oh, are they?
They are. But yeah, I think the other thing I would say with anyone starting out actually with marketing is, you know, money's always a thing. Well, probably one of the biggest assets you have is you, because founder-led marketing is a huge thing at the moment. Everyone wants to see the story behind the brand, and it means it's you. So like it's free, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's 100%. A massive thing. That's a good place to start if you don't know what to do. It's like just tell your story, you know?
Yeah. One of our best performing ads on Cloth Project is the founder story. People just like people, don't they? They want to know. And that's why it's like, even at the beginning of this podcast, when we're talking about our daily routines and our lives, it's like, I actually find that stuff interesting when I hear other girls talking about their routine and what they do. Because like, I'm like, oh, what do you do? Maybe I can implement that into my day-to-day routine. And it's because it's relatable and it's accessible. Mm-hmm. When you're selling a lifestyle or a culture rather than a product, and a founder story is kind of an iteration of that.
And I also say this for like, I mean, we're talking mainly about when people are starting out, but the benefit of kind of doing the founder stuff as well is like, to your point, it attracts people. And then eventually if you harness that creates community, and community creates longevity. So actually it's like a worthwhile investment at the start to like focus on that kind of stuff, because all brands want to create a community, because in I guess like a world that's so fast changing in terms of marketing, like it gives you some sort of like legacy. If you look like brands like Tala, Free Soul, you know, all these, they like heavily invest on like the community element of it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think it's massive. Agreed.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say is once you're up and running, if you've got customers who love your product, like reach out to them and ask them if they want to get involved in content, you know? But like,
so a massive thing that we're working on at the moment is I don't know if I mentioned it in the last episode, but we've brought Kate on, who's in Ecomm Girls Club, to run our ads now, manage those platforms. And so we've got more time to focus on other marketing channels. Like, bear in mind, Cloth Project's 1.5 years old now. So when I was saying like just double down on the ads, we did that for the first 18 months. We've now got to a point where like we're ready to hand that over, and now we're going to really focus on email marketing, but also like particularly on our repeat customers, because they're like gold dust. Your repeat customers, obviously they're signed up to your mailing list. They've already shown that they have bought into the brand and their brand loyalty is there. So our job is to maximize that as the brand, and to, like you just said, reach back out to them, communicate with them, and involve them into the brand as much as we can. So a way of us doing that basically is just to hammer now email marketing.
Yeah.
So that's going to be quite interesting for us, I think.
I also think, like, aside to the like channels and stuff like that, like one thing to kind of consider when you're first starting out is like, I think often, and you do it when you're communicating in anything, but you have to kind of assume the customer knows nothing. Do you know what I mean? Like you might think, oh, this is really obvious that this is an offer. Like, you have to make it so crystal clear. And I think just spending time thinking about what your message is, and like how to make that as clear as possible. And then I guess from a customer experience point of view, how to make it as easy as possible for someone to buy your product. Like,
yeah, I'd say like your UX is really important on that note as well. And I think people overlook this a lot because your UX is your website, basically, your user experience. The harder that is, the less likely that customer's going to convert and buy the product. Like, how many times do you go on a website and it's clunky and you're literally just like, oh, I can't be bothered. Just like you scroll off because our attention span is so short. And I think where people go wrong with websites is they will spend thousands of pounds on getting their website designed by a design agency who have no idea about UX and flow and conversion rate and basket spend and basket optimization. And like all of that, what I just listed, that's the business and that's the success. And if you've just got a pretty website that doesn't factor in all of those elements, then it's honestly a waste of time. I've made this mistake before. I think I can't remember the number, but we spent like 40 grand on this website when I was at the agency. At the talent's request, they wanted to work with this specific agency and create this website. And it looked great. I'm not going to say it looked amazing. Like, it looked great. But
you are hard to please though with aesthetics.
Yeah, but when you spend 40 grand, don't you think you're going to get something unbelievable?
Like the best thing in the world. Yeah,
the best 100%. Thing you've ever seen. And 100%. It wasn't.
You should be crying with joy if it's costing you 40 grand. You should be emotional.
I should have it like printed out and framed on my wall.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Should be in your like highlights of the year, you know.
Yeah, literally. Literally. But like there was no thought there to like all the UX and getting the customer to cart as soon as possible in as few clicks as possible. There's no thought about any of that. And yeah, that's a lesson I've learned the hard way. And I think focus on all of those things and you genuinely can just build your website on Shopify these days, like, or Wix. They make it so easy. Given that the title of this episode is Marketing Magic on a Budget, like that's a way of doing it. And then spend the money on someone who really understands, to like look through the website and understand, someone who understands CVR and all that other stuff. That's where I'd allocate my money.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth saying, like, unless you're kind of heavily invested from the start and you're launching a mega brand, pretty much everyone's doing their first like marketing on Canva. Like, everyone's just doing their stuff on Canva.
Literally.
And like we've said this in I think every episode, but you'll hate the first ones you do. Like when you look back, you'll hate them. We say it all the time. Like
we make all of our ads on Canva for Cloth Project. Obviously we don't, like, we shoot the content and the imagery
CapCut
and then
as well.
CapCut and Canva. Well, I remember when we first launched, and I think it was Sash that was like, we've just got to make the ads ourselves. I was like, cool, but how do you make an ad? I thinking it was going to be like this really complex thing. She was like, literally just the same way you make any reel. I was like, wait, what? And I remember doing it on CapCut thinking, this is so rogue. And obviously the bigger you get and the more production you have, like you pay performance graphic designers to do it and like producers and editors and whatever. But like at this point in time, that's not what we're doing. And so, CapCut seems to be working, which is great.
I also think, to your point, like obviously you just asked Sasha, but I would say that like if you're struggling on where to start, ask someone. Like if you've got someone in your network who's running a brand, like most people, if you ask nicely, will give you 30 minutes of their time to ask. The only thing I will say is if you're going to do that is like prepare, like don't waste people's time. But or like if you're in like a community like ours, genuinely, like we've seen so many girls, they ask like a random question about like SEO or like influencer marketing or where to find UGC creators and that kind of stuff. And people always come back, you know, people always will like give their, and normally it's quite good because you'll get different opinions within like the WhatsApp thread. So you can kind of pro and con things.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's super important just to ask, because it can also, to Yasmine's point, stop you from making expensive mistakes, like having to pay someone to do it when you could just ask someone for free.
And also the more conversations you have with people who've been there, done that, the more you'll realize that they've all kind of done it a similar way. Like very rarely do you get successful founders who have started their business with loads of capital and spent tens of thousands of pounds on things like websites and ads when they're starting. Like very rarely. The majority of them bootstrap the whole thing and therefore paid next to nothing for all these elements and just like kept going until something's ticked, something worked. And then I don't know, it's quite inspiring because you have those chats. So you're like, oh my God, if you guys have all done it, so can we. I think there's something so powerful in that.
And also, like, if I end up talking to, actually, I've got quite a funny story, I'll share it, but if you end up talking to someone, like if I end up talking to someone where I work in the co-working space and stuff about marketing, normally I end up sharing like, oh, you should try like Veed for Reels if you're doing podcast marketing, or you should try this platform. Like, people are normally quite willing to volunteer information. However, saying that, I bumped into an acquaintance of mine who is notorious for how do I even say this politely? Like, kind of, no, like, I don't really, like, talking about themselves.
Just say it.
Oh,
like, God.
Yeah. And
male or female?
Male. Said Human is launching a product, and
Said
Human. And I was like trying to be like helpful and be like, oh, you should like try this. Like, I was like, this is basically like, I help some people with this kind of stuff, like about like LinkedIn content for founder marketing and like content. And I was like, try this. And then he was just like, yeah, but you know, like my product's too good for paid ads. They don't even work. So I'm just going to make YouTube videos. And I was just like, you know, and you're just like, I'm not even going to respond because I was like, this is not worth my time today. I was like, okay, good luck. And like, was like, see you next time. I was like, went on with my day because I was like, I just can't have this, like, I don't, like.
I'm done here. We're done here.
Just be like so narrow-minded about stuff like that. Like, as someone who, this person is not a marketer as well. And I'm just like, what? Like, you're selling, it's an online product. Like, what? Like, you know?
I do think with people like that, like, you just learn the hard way. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no telling people.
The person also brushed off all my suggestions as if I was like making it up, and I was like, no point.
Ugh.
I'm not, you know, and you're just like, I'm
How
just
rude.
trying to be nice generally. Like,
Yeah.
You know, like, it takes nothing.
Well, I mean, like, I'd be interested to see how he goes with no marketing other than YouTube. Is he a YouTuber? Like, has he got a platform already?
No.
So he just wants to sell his product on YouTube. Like, that's his only marketing channel.
As far as I know, and then word of mouth, which, to be fair, in Hong Kong, like, word of mouth probably gets you further than a lot of places for like certain things. I
mean, that's just like stupid though. Do you know what I mean?
Like,
that's just stupid. It's like, dumb. Why would you shoot yourself in the foot like that?
But I just like the attitude of like just deciding that's, you can't, like, I would, like, paid media is like literally what Ecomm kind of is.
Is
like,
built
you know,
on
like,
these days.
Yeah, like if you talk to any of the like OG Ecomm entrepreneurs, none of them have done anything without paid ads, as far as I'm aware.
It's really rare. Really rare.
Like at like global scale brands like the Gymsharks of the world, right? Like, there's no way that they would be as big as they were without some sort of paid element, I would imagine. But maybe
yeah, I mean, definitely in like this day and age, I don't know, like, yeah, I don't think some of the bigger brands that I know, like, when they launched paid media wasn't a thing. But we had the rise of influencers instead, whereas like nowadays, for this guy launching a brand without the aid of paid media and without a talent, like, if he had an influencer with 2 million followers and he was like, we're not gonna do paid ads because we've got this other marketing engine, cool, amazing, that actually makes a lot of sense. But he doesn't have that, so that's weird.
Even Skims is running paid ads. Like,
every single brand will be running paid ads, like, because especially with talent-led brands, like the captive audience becomes saturated very quickly, and you also find that the talent doesn't want to be talking about that brand all the time. Like, that's a super common thing, and so you have to find other channels that do not rely on that talent. In fact, it's like pretty important that you do find other channels that don't rely on any single person within the business, including the influencer.
I also think, like, I do, to caveat, as we said earlier, like, there's plenty of examples of people launching brands really successfully without any paid, 100%. But I think it's when it's like you're taking it to the next level. Like, normally you would introduce it, right? Like, it just is it logically makes sense.
I don't really see how you can launch a brand in 2025 without either influencer or paid and expect it to gain traction quickly. I just really don't know how you do, like, what. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see. So let's see.
I mean, yeah, it was just, it wasn't even like, it was more like just like disheartening more than anything. I was like, oh, I'm trying to help.
Oh, and just a caveat, when I say with influencer, I mean like gifting is also in that category. So if you've just launched a brand and your strategy is to like gift to influencers, like that's also a really strong marketing channel, obviously.
Do you know what I do think is like a kind of people don't think about as well with like marketing in terms of doing the physical work is like repurposing content. I think people like make it, you know, like when you film something,
didn't you? With your
yeah,
agency?
I mean, I did it for brands. I used to go in and like take all their content and then make loads of new stuff. Like a thankless task, I must say. But like,
yeah, how would you do that? Just out of interest, what was your process?
It kind of depended on like what it was, but like I would, it kind of is hard to say in one way, but I would take like a lot of like the best performing ads and turn them into like mashups with like things that were working well on the algorithm. So like TikTok voiceovers, split screen hooks, and I'd take like all the best ad hooks and like do a split screen of like, you know, all that kind of stuff and just test and learn. And also like sometimes like with some of the brands I were working for had just so much content that if you went back, like I'd go back and look like a year before in all the folders, and it's stuff that like is still really good, but they stopped running. But like if you change a few things or you change the messaging, like you can have another go, you know, like it's all to do with as well, like looking at the data and what's performing and things like that. But I just think you can take one video and turn it into 5 different things so easily. Like if you change the hook, change the accent on the voiceover, change like even with the hook, visual hook, as well as like the voiceover hook and the text hook, like if you just mix those up, you've got like 9 different versions, you know, if you do 3 of each. So I think that's just something to think about, like getting the most out of what you're making, especially if you're making reels, because it does take a long time. So like don't just make it one video.
As the brand, you're like, oh, I've seen this content like a million times. We need fresh content. But people won't have, like the people who you're serving those ads to won't have seen it. So that's actually quite an interesting take on it as well, I suppose.
The other thing we did was like where we had content that was filmed to a really high quality, taking statics from the videos and then I always say like if you're testing messaging and like what works with your audience, use statics first, because you can make like 10 different statics in literally 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, like stuff like that. And then on Canva, and then you've got 10 assets to test. So I just think don't spend hours on one reel and then launch it once and then be like, okay, next one. Like you can probably do more with it and be more efficient with your time. Because
that's a really good one, actually.
Yes. Tools that you love for marketing. I always think it's useful to get started with, at least, not the like super complex ones, but
I mean, obviously Canva and CapCut.
Yeah.
Like
the MVPs.
The MVPs
of ad making.
And also really loving Veed AI, which is what Lucy, you told me about the other day, for pulling reads. So like reels. So like if you've got like, for example, with us with the podcast, I just upload the YouTube link and then it extracts like 20 different reels from the content, like from the full video, and then it will rank the reels from like out of engagement, interest, flow. So it'll be like the engagement here is like 9 out of 10, the hook is a 5 out of 10, So I'm finding is it Veed?
Veed.io
or something like that. That's really good. So loving that.
And also the great thing with those, I was just going to say, the great thing with those tools is like the companies are all competing so much that they like get better quite quickly as well. Like I've noticed, like they're just getting better and better.
They're really good. And then the other one I'd say is obviously Klaviyo for your email marketing is so good. And
just so easy.
I mean, obviously Spotify. I always do that. Shopify. For just starting any e-commerce website business ever.
Yeah, you can get templates on there for your site and everything. So it's a really like, it's probably so like good. The most valuable app ever in e-com.
I mean, what would we do if it didn't exist?
I know,
it would be so much harder.
Yeah, it's like kind of like built on it. A couple of other ones I like. DeepSeek which has been in the news a lot this week, but for copy. So like it's like ChatGPT basically, but I also think it's
Is it?
yeah, it's the Chinese equivalent of it's like used in the West. It's not like in Chinese, but I think it's Chinese built DeepSeek. I use it for copy. It's really good. But even things like optimizing, if you've written copy and you would like ask it to optimize it for like captions or optimize it for LinkedIn's algorithm and stuff like that, like it's pretty good.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, or even like I always say to people, like if you've got a message you want to convey like to your customers, ask it to give you 10 different ways of saying that. You know, like 10
and then you
different
can
ways to say
incorporate
it.
that into an ad.
Yeah, you've got 10 ads, right? If you've got a static that's a winner, ask it to come up with, it just saves you creative time, right? Like
Is it good though? Because you know, like I've asked, like when you ask ChatGPT to do that, it could be really cringe or like sounds really weird. Like it's just not it. It's a little bit off the mark, isn't it, ChatGPT, in terms of like tone of voice and like culture. So I think it's what's called
DeepSeek. I think it's how you, like everything, it's kind of how you prompt it. But I personally think it's better than ChatGPT. It's also really useful for marketing research.
Really?
Like if you're researching other brands and stuff. Yeah.
Can it access brands' websites and also can it access things like Instagram and TikTok? Because I'm finding that is a real issue with ChatGPT.
That's annoying. I haven't actually tested that yet because I assumed it couldn't. Like I always prompt things around that because I assume it can't. But it may well do. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like they really need to get around that because, for example,
it's annoying.
You like something I always want to do is like, hey ChatGPT, review this product from this brand and analyze 1,000 reviews and tell me the like most common pros and cons of that product, what people are loving, what they're hating, and it can't access the reviews because it can't access the website. And I guess that's to do with data protection, or they don't have like a license to access the website or something like that. But the day that changes is going to be a bit of a game changer, I think. Also,
yeah. So that's one. The other one that I think is good, and there's two of these. One is called Atria.io and the other one is called Foreplay. And they're both basically, you can see like every ad ever from every brand and you get like loads of data on it and stuff. I just find it really useful for like ideas for creative. And then you can look up all in one place what all your competitors are running. And it's where I've found a lot of like inspiration for content and things like that. So I think they're useful just if you're like don't know where to start with like ads and stuff. The other thing I had on here was like schedulers if you're like doing social and stuff, but I'm always quite conflicted because there's not one that I particularly love, and also with the algorithm they say it doesn't work as well.
So the thing is, like, there's two things here. Either it's a massive marketing ploy from Meta to say scheduling won't work, because they obviously want you to be on the app using it.
Yeah.
If we all scheduled content, it would probably take our time off the app, reduce that time significantly, which they don't want. So either that's a marketing ploy or it's true. But there's definitely something going around and has been for the last few months that says if you schedule posts, it really is like it's not favored by the algorithm. So that's annoying. I think the other thing with scheduling is you're not on like on the pulse if you're scheduling posts. So if something goes up and there's like, I don't know, loads of comments or negative comments or positive comments, and I think it's really important to be in the comments responding. So it's a bit of a fine line, isn't it?
Yeah, and even on LinkedIn, right? Like it used to be okay, but now the schedulers that I've used, it doesn't pull through tags. And like on LinkedIn, you need to be tagging other people and stuff, and it doesn't pull them through. It's really annoying. Yeah. Because then like you have to go in and edit it anyway to get the tags to work. Yeah. And then if you edit the post, then it like the algorithm doesn't like it.
And it also fucks up the cover image if it's a reel, which is a nightmare because you can't edit the cover image after you've posted. Well, you can, but it looks awful. It's just like so clunky.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think one of the fun things about marketing is there's always like new things all the time, like new apps and new tools and stuff.
Yeah,
so
fun, Luce.
I quite enjoy.
I'm just overwhelmed. I don't find it fun.
I get all these little newsletters sent to me about like AI and stuff and like read through them. I'm like, oh.
Lucy loves a newsletter.
I do.
I'm
love
glad
a
you do, because you
newsletter.
do our newsletter. It's phenomenal.
And it slaps, if I do say so myself. So humble. It is. I love it. Yeah. So there's also like, I think there's probably like many more apps that you can use that are just like, but they're not like the 0 to 1 kind of thing, like SEMrush for SEO, and like there's lots of like apps for like influencer data crunching and stuff. But I think if you're just doing like the 0 to 1, don't worry about that. Like focus on like understanding it yourself and the basics first. Question for you.
I have one last tool that I use that I talk about all the time, and it's Motion. And this isn't like a marketing tool, but it's an organization tool, and like we all need
that
more
helps
of this
Yasmine
in
do
our
her
life.
marketing.
Yeah.
It's like your own scheduler. It's a scheduler for you.
Motion should just sponsor us at this point, because I talk about it every single episode. It's so good. And for busy marketing, D2C girlies like us, Ecomm girlies like us, it's a lifesaver. So yeah, Motion, M for mother, OTION.
Not Notion.
It's basically a AI personal assistant.
Yeah, it's good. Question. Brands that you think do marketing really well? For inspo.
That's not an influencer brand, because that's a bit of a cheat.
Yeah, let's like remove
Let's do like normal
everything
brands.
Emma Grede does. Yeah. Everything that the Kardashians want.
And like
I think
Rhode. I love Rhode Beauty.
I love Rhode. I think they do it so well. But I think, like D2C brands, you think do it. You don't have to like their marketing, to caveat, because I've got someone here that I don't like, but they do it well.
Really? So
like
I
loop
think
earplugs. Gross.
Yeah.
But do it
Okay.
well.
Fair.
Yeah.
I think Free Soul do it really well. Like I love their community-based marketing.
Yeah, I think it's really cool.
We've discussed the ROI on events and community-based marketing, and like the reality is it's immeasurable. But I do think like you get to a tipping point with those kinds of businesses where like that outreach,
people want to be a part of it.
Yeah, people want to be a part of it, and the ROI
Gymshark is
really
a really
strong.
good example. Gymshark nailed that. Like they're probably one of the first to really do it.
Really? Do you think?
Yeah, like back in I was actually in my like Fitspo girl era when Gymshark became a thing, so I was like fully invested. And they did like meetups and all that kind of stuff. And
yeah, cool.
They're also a really interesting example of like brands who started online who like aim to do retail when like the high street is somewhat dying, and they've gone into Oxford Street and stuff like that, which I just think is really cool. You see that a lot like with them, like Odd Muse as well. Like a lot of brands are like,
Odd Muse is a great brand example.
Yeah, brilliant. And also an incredible example of founder-led marketing, because she models, Amy models all the dresses on the site and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just like front and center, and it works.
Agreed.
I also think from like a D2C perspective, like AG1 do a good job of marketing their product. One Hero product, really simple, really clean and clear. Like you know exactly who it is when you see their ads.
Yeah.
Nothing like crazy fancy, but obviously it works. So I think that's a good example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I also put not D2C, but like there are some just companies that do it well, like in the UK, like Ryanair on social media is so good. They're so funny, you know, like it's so silly, but it's so good.
I feel like Ryanair were the first corporate company to start like
taking the piss out of themselves.
And then like now I feel like a lot of them do it because it's their way to engage, become more human.
Yeah, but I just think like whoever is head of social media there, like round of applause, because like, they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
who I love? This is not really, well, it is marketing, but it's because of that tone of voice. Reformation. I just think it's so good. The way that they use like sarcasm and humor, but in like a cool girl way. Like it's so not cringe. None of it's cringe ever. And it's so on the mark. I think that's really cool. And so basically like for their ads, they'll literally just get like a studio shot of like a model wearing an outfit, and then they'll put a strap line across it in their tone of voice, and they just own that image, and it's just really clever. Yeah, I love it. I love them.
I mean, well, I hope this has been insightful for everyone.
Yeah, I've actually quite enjoyed this episode.
I've enjoyed
in terms
it.
Of,
I feel like I learn
chatting through all this
doing
stuff.
things like this.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, like
me too.
it's self-fulfilling. No, that's not well. I don't know what the word is.
No.
But maybe.
Yeah, self-fulfilling.
But as always, if you enjoyed this, like, it would mean the world to Yazzie and I if you would like and subscribe,
Yes,
because it means
please.
that we can keep doing this, basically. But if not, well, no, do that.
There
but
is no
if not,
if
we'll
not.
see you next. Just do that. Yeah. But we will be back next week. I can't remember what we're talking about next time, but we've got a load of things in the works. We wrote down at the start of the year all the things we wanted to talk about, and there's a lot. So we're good on that front. But have a great rest of the week wherever you are. And
Thanks,
if
guys.
you're in Asia, Kung Hei Fat Choi, because it's still Chinese New Year.
Kung Hei Fat Choi. I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And to get involved with the Ecomm Girls Club, search for @Ecomm Girls Club on Instagram.
But if you feel like taking your Instagram stalking one step further, we are both also on Instagram @Yasmine Chic and @LucyCG.